Well, hello and welcome to Healthy in the Couve, or Healthy and Active in the Couve, rather. I'm Nick. I am a certified nutrition coach and personal trainer. And with me, as always, is Dr. Trent Corey, who is a physical therapist. And today we're going to talk about fasting. I'm excited about it, partly because it's one of my favorite go-tos for health, for a number of reasons that we'll get into, but also because at Northwest Personal Training, right now, we're having a 6-week makeover challenge, and my team is the intermittent fasting team. So I'd like to bring all kinds of knowledge and positivity and just endorsing this. It's not a diet. It's just time restriction. So it's a timing based plan for when you eat, not necessarily a diet as in the strategy for nutrition. But we can get into that part of it as well. But I want to talk mostly about the benefits just of letting your body rest and digest. And then after you're done digesting, then recovering and all the things like that. But do you have any insights before I start jibber jabbering about intermittent fasting or prolonged fasting?
Yeah, sure. I think it really does help people kind of organize how they're planning for their meals, and it also gives them some opening of time, actually. So a lot of times we're spending so much time putting things together, and we're always thinking about what to put in. And a lot of times what your body needs is, like you said, that rest cycle where your body can actually repair. If you're always kind of throwing food in, your body has to handle that and expend energy to digest the food. And a lot of times our body needs some help to kind of take some time to repair. And if you don't give it that time, it can be really harder on our body to do those kind of things. So definitely the part with timing makes a lot of sense. I've had people who've done it and really loved it. They feel like their energy level has gone up and feel like their inflammation has even decreased as well. But that's one thing that we've noticed with people who've done it. And then another thing was, yeah, there's a whole bunch of research that shows, how eating cycles with, how eating with certain cycles in according to the clock, eating according to nature's cycle is super important. So making sure that we eat at the right times of day, in the middle of our day. And actually, this kind of goes to the Ayurvedic methods where they talk about the pitta system, which is like, the more powerful digesting time. The active time during the day is kind of that midday. So, and that's kind of what lines up with a lot of the intermittent fasting things where you have a window where you might, only eat from whatever. I mean, it could be a 5 hour window, it could be a 4 hour window, it could be 6 or 8 hour window. It could be all sorts of different windows of time that you actually are consuming food. But there's a time that's kind of the sweet spot where, your body's more apt to be able to take that food and turn it into energy, as opposed to, like, hey, I'm hungry at night and I just eat this, at the end of the day. Even if it's a healthy thing, a quote, healthy thing that we're eating, a lot of times the timing can be an impactful thing. And so we have these cycles of nature that our bodies need to adjust to. And the more you can kind of time it to where our bodies are able to assimilate that better, it's a better thing for us. So definitely is worth doing. And I think for most people, it's very feasible. It doesn't take, it just takes a little bit of a crunch down. Maybe you don't have that breakfast, which you may be just conditioned to have. And then maybe you're just finishing up with an early dinner or something like that, but just not eating at night, which generally what we're telling people anyway is just to not within the last 2 or 3 hours of the day to not be eating, because your body kind of needs that wind down period, and it definitely helps you. So that's kind of one thing that I found people to be able to start with that kind of thing, and it's not too overwhelmingly stressful on them. It actually can take away some stress because you have less chance. You don't have to do meal prep, you don't have to clean up, all that stuff. So it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I particularly love it because I'm really into the way like the microbiome reacts to it as well. Especially like in America we eat way too much sugar than probably as far as refined sugars and things, and that creates what I've seen and what I've read, an imbalance of things like candida and certain funguses and things like that, and the studies that I've read, there's the longer you can go with your fast, Those kind of bacteria like the candida and funguses and molds and things can't last as long as more of the microbiota that helps you have a healthier gut system, the things that kind of create GABA and serotonin and things, and things that make you feel good from that gut to brain communication. The fasting kind of allows that the bad bacteria to die off, and then when you reintroduce fiber and protein again after you fast, then the good bacteria in your body just kind of solidify and come back to life, and that bad bacteria doesn't get to grow back again because you're not reintroducing a lot of carbohydrate and sugars and things. And that's one way that a lot of like functional nutritionists are using to really help with like maybe like leaky gut syndrome or different other things. But it changes, like you were saying, the relationship to food gets to change too, because a lot of those bacteria like the candida will make you want to crave more sugar. So after you get past a lot of the cravings and the changing, your hormones start to change in a positive way. Your relationship to say certain foods like sugar changes, and you don't have a lot of those cravings. And the fasting in and of itself, when you're doing it in short periods, doesn't necessarily make you lose the weight. It's the calorie deficit. But the prolonged fasting definitely changes the way that you metabolize, like as far as the way that your body reacts to insulin, and the way that your body reacts to a whole lot of different other hormones like leptin and ghrelin, which kind of make you have either the hunger or feeling full when you eat. All of those hormones become more balanced, so that your body, you can intuitively feel on a proper level what you're supposed to eat and when you're supposed to cut off and everything. But then at the same time, your body replenishes itself, where it's called autophagy, where it eats up all the old bad cells and is able to produce new cells. So on that level of like the deep microbiology of the gut, that's what really makes me excited for intermittent fasting and prolonged fasting as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really good. Yeah, the lot of things you talked about were spot on to what we need to kind of talk about. It's like making sure our bodies are lining up and like getting over that initial phase that you're just talking about, like trying to get where your body's kind of screaming for it. And a lot of times it's not your body, right? It's that bacteria, it's those fungus, those things that have been thriving on sugar for so long. So if you're on a chain where you just can't, you're having that craving of carbs in the afternoon or whatever, like your body is kind of wanting you have that desire from that. And a lot of times it's a fungus wanting it more. And
Yeah,
so the more we can kind of get over that initial phase is where, your body's kind of burning more from a different source. It starts to get into, I believe it's ketosis, and, the idea that your body is creating a little bit of a different burning source. And it kind of brings us back to a more of a primal ancestral pattern that we used to have for years, that our human system has been wired. So for, millions of years, or however long the human species has been around, we've had to go look around for a next meal. It's taken a long, so we've had to go around and look for things. Now, I can go 10 feet away and go to my kitchen, get something. And then,
right.
anytime I have any sort of feeling or instinct, and actually a lot of times it's behavioral and just habitual, you may not even be hungry, you might be thirsty, and you go grab something, and usually it may be kind of rich or sweet or, whatever, salty or whatever, because that's what you're craving, or whatever your biology's craving, because it's been kind of thrown off. And then a lot of that also gets thrown off with the differences. And we've talked about this a little bit before, Dr. Jack Kruse's work on, the diurnal cycle and the circadian rhythms, and that we basically, with artificial light at night, it changes up our chemistry of what we're responding to. But our bodies and brains are very used to having these long periods of time without food, and it's able to do very well with that. It's just sometimes because of how used to having a ready food source right away, that we feel an extreme amount of discomfort with that. But anytime I've had any degree of extended fast, and I'm not experienced like deeply with fasting, but like definitely if you get over that quote hump of that, that initial thing, you can be on the other side of that being like, wow, that I've had this amazing clarity. I actually have more energy.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't realize how much energy we have inside of our own mitochondria. We have so much more, we have so much energy within our own systems, but we don't let that, we get it all clogged up with all this junk. And we're thinking in the wrong context of thinking how food, something outside of us, it's just kind of a whole holistic concept that a lot of us erroneously believe is that, we don't have the energy, we need to get it from something. And so it's a big shift when people have less stuff, they're taking less stuff, right? They're not eating for a while, right? They like, maybe it's like, I don't know how long you do your intermittent fast time, but like, I've known people who did just like a 2 hour window, like that's it. They just eat around lunchtime and that's about it. And that's totally like, and they find, wow, I had a friend, he had gout and he just went off of all the stuff that causes it, alcohol and the red wine, or all the stuff, all the stuff that creates that issue, sea fish or whatever, shellfish, all that stuff kind of, he took off of that. But in general, he just found that, boy, my pain is a lot better. I'm not having these attacks as much anymore. I've lost weight, all these things, because we're affecting the system. And he felt so much better. He's like, wow, my joints are not as stiff, and all these things that are very beneficial. Definitely worth exploring for most people. I think a lot of people are thinking of a term. I think it's been just conditioned in our culture that we need we need that supplement to create that thing for me, when it's really as cheap as, hey, why don't you just try not eating for a while, or just try to eat within a window? So it's definitely feasible for everything. Like usually it's actually just a paradigm shift for you to do it, and then not, and actually it's less money, and all these things. It's just, you got to structure it and you got to be disciplined. That's what it usually takes.
Yeah.
So
And definitely some people should not fast. Like some people like maybe Hashimoto's or different types of autoimmune, or some people with like certain like liver issues and things like that. So I mean, definitely seek advice from a medical professional before you do that. But for most people, I think I mean, I've got a list of benefits for not just intermittent fasting, but prolonged fasting, and I'll try to read them fast because they're a long it's a long list, but I get more and more excited about just the benefits of fasting. So here's an example of some of it. So fasting can help with stimulating growth hormones, which are in turn fat burning hormones also. But it stimulates the secretion of growth hormones by 1,300%. It triggers autophagy. We talked about that earlier. It's kind of like eating up the old cells and reproducing new ones. Stem cell generation. It stabilizes blood sugar. It can help with your immune system. It can help with depression and anxiety. It helps with detoxification because then it allows your body to do what it naturally does, which is detoxify, and especially after you're done with digesting everything. It can aid in weight loss and improve metabolic functioning. It slows the aging process and aids in longevity. It helps with autoimmune conditions if you're able to do that properly. Normalizing your insulin and leptin sensitivity, lowering blood pressure, helping with thyroid conditions, chronic pain, candida, and gut issues, gall liver issues, improving biomarkers for terminal diseases, supporting hormones and fertility, menopause and perimenopause. It can aid with normalizing ghrelin levels. That's the hunger hormone. Reducing inflammation, like your clients were experiencing, lessening the free radical damage, lowering triglyceride levels, helps with memory function and mood, boosting brain power, and supporting. And this one was really got me when I was studying it about 10 years ago, supporting in the treatment and prevention of cancer. So in one study, they were finding out the prolonged fasting can aid in the recovery when somebody's taking like radiation and chemotherapy. It creates the newer cells that are a little bit stronger, and so the cancer actually gets attacked better through the treatment, and then the healthy human cells are better intact and able to withstand the cancer treatment. So fasting can aid, in cancer and everything. So like, I know there's more. That's the end of this particular list, but and it definitely depends on the amount of time that you have. So not all of those are going to go into the intermittent fasting range, but there are different ranges that all the studies can show. Like after 16 hours, you start autophagy. After 36 hours, this thing happens. And then, they've got good biomarkers for when it kicks in for fat metabolism, or repairing your gut, or repairing your immune system, and all of that. So the science is still coming in, and people still have to change certain things based off of what they knew from 2 years ago. But it's an exciting field right now. So especially when just letting your body heal itself with not eating, all of those things are a huge benefit.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also been the traditions for, thousands of years. I mean, this is not this is well known in most major religions and meditation practices, that there's a time where you can self-reflect and all those things and create that time where you're not, I call it food stress, like, hey, what are we gonna have for dinner? We got to make this, and like think about all the time it takes you to find the food and cook it and prepare it, and then set the table, you eat it, and then you do the dishes, right? All this stuff that you have to do to make that happen. All of a sudden you take that away and you just do this quiet reflection. Allows our bodies to do the restoring things that it does. And we can get all into the physiology. You went into that quite a bit, but then just having the ability to just center ourselves, having our bodies have that chance to do that autophagy and apoptosis, which is a programmed cell death, which actually kills off those other cells, and that's what's happening. And the more we can kind of do those, it's really important for us to do that more as we get older, because we have all these accumulative of different cells that kind of build up. They call them zombie cells, or senescent. I forget I can't remember the senescent cells or something. I'm going to mess it up, but anyway, but there's
Yeah.
but there's cells that we definitely kind of have kind of lingering, and that's kind of where those other cells can come in and attack or just help clean up the system. Those kind of things are super helpful for flushing out things and keeping us fresh and from deep within. So so it's great. I think it's definitely something where, at least with your program, you're having a lot of people start to explore it a little bit more. It's become a lot more well known in in the culture. Having people have these things to try doesn't cost anything, and then you can give it a go and just take notice how you do. And like you said, a lot of different things you just got to be aware of and check in with doctors. And I wouldn't do this if you're super young, or even if you're like halfway thin. I mean, I'm pretty thin, skinny guy, but like, doing this a little bit, just understanding what your body can do. And, obviously don't work yourself out like crazy. You got to be aware of those kind of things with exercise. You get lightheaded, like certain things your body needs to adapt, but definitely worth going for.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you reminded me of a big thing too. And I was having a conversation with one of our trainers here, because we're also part of the challenge is mindfulness, meditation practice, kind of a thing. And I've done extended fasts before, and a lot of it is that it really interrupts your relationship with food. And then when you're doing it as like a mindful practice, and observing your behaviors while you're doing that, you don't have all that time in your day where, like you were saying, you've got to prep for food. So you've got all this extra time either in your head or dealing with the world around you. And if maybe you're a little hungry, you can kind of see yourself getting snippy with people, or turn it around to say, okay, I'm not going to be snippy with people and irritated. I'm going to breathe and maybe move a little bit more slowly, and move mentally a little bit slowly, so I can pause and not be so reactive with people. I can be more responsive in a positive way, and not so the meditation and mindfulness comes out of that, because you start to go, okay, so where did I get that behavior from? And you can reflect on it. Maybe your relationship with food changes because maybe food was helping you block or ignore some of the behaviors from your past. And so it's like, not to get too psychological with it, but that extra space in between food that you may be using your food for something is a really great benefit to your psyche, as well as the way that it changes your microbiome for the depression and anxiety. The bacteria creates more GABA and serotonin, which helps with anxiety and depression. And so by not eating, you definitely help your mental health.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think you're right. A lot of things of the thought process of like scarcity. Hey, you don't know when the next meal is going to come, so you want to have another thing to eat, and all these things. Security is tied up with a lot of this stuff. So there's a lot involvement with it. So you're right, changing that relationship and just kind of pondering what that really means and why you're wanting this so bad and that kind of thing, and understanding where those instincts or those impulses come from, and you're able to kind of reflect on that kind of thing really kind of helps you think about why am I reaching for that, or is it something that I just do like as a distraction. It keeps away from those things that I really don't want to deal with. Same thing with TV or whatever, right? There's things that we just it's just easier to watch the TV. It's harder to have that real conversation with your kid or your mom or whatever. Like there's certain things that are harder to say, and you'd rather just escape from it. So you go eat your food, and you go watch something, and you just kind of just blank out. And it's really important for us to be to live our best lives, to at least encounter that, and to be able to have that engagement with that, with which is right in front of us. So
Yeah,
it's a great opportunity to do that during a fast.
for
So
sure. And then something particular I do want to stress is having enough hydration and electrolytes while you're fasting is super important, as well as when you refeed to make sure that you have adequate amounts of protein and fiber to feed, so that you don't have the muscle loss, and you restore the gut bacteria to its proper place, and then also go slow. Enjoy it. And be mindful, not ravenous, but mindful as you replace, your nourishment, and be thankful for what you have, is all part of a mental process of not overloading your cells again,
mhm.
or harsh on your body, because it had been a while, especially if the longer you go, the slower you have to reintegrate everything. But
Yeah.
definitely hydration and electrolytes are key to keeping your body from dehydrating and deteriorating. You don't want to hurt yourself while you're fasting.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think there's no rush to get into it. You just try what you can do. I think most people, you just kind of go to where it's an uncomfortable level, and then maybe that's where you kind of resume back into normal eating cycle or whatever. And then you can kind of build, but there's no rush to get into or will yourself way uncomfortably to do that. But there's lots of research and lots of good books out there to do the kind of following of all the sorts of different things you can kind of follow out there, which would be helpful for you as a guide. So, just do it safely, no forcing it. It's definitely worth going for, especially with all the benefits you just stated, is a great thing to go for.
And one thing before I forget, if you are fasting for a prolonged amount of time, then you can double up on some different things, like an elimination style diet, where you maybe can reintroduce things a little bit at a time and see what your body's sensitive to, because then you've got more awareness of, you haven't eaten, like, say, cheese in a while, and maybe cheese isn't the best thing for you, but you didn't know it because of everything else. So you can reintegrate food slowly, and then just kind of see how your body reacts. And maybe this certain food, which you didn't think bothered you before, you react to, you get a little bit sniffly, or you get an upset stomach, and so your body's going to tell you what foods at that time are reacting poorly. So it's another great benefit in reintegrating food with purpose and with intention for fueling your body, rather than out of boredom or lack of that scarcity mentality.
You
So
got it. Yep.
all kinds
Very.
of fasting.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. I love this. This is a good talk. I love that we kind of got a chance to talk about this kind of thing, get things kind of a solidified an idea of what people may have heard about it, and give you some ideas how to do this. So definitely.
Well, right on. Well, if anybody has more questions, definitely leave some comments, and we'll get back to you. There's all different kinds of fasting and all kinds of different benefits, way more than what we could fit into this. So um, we will meet again soon.
Okay, awesome. Well, take care, Nick. Good talking to you again. Thanks.
Talking to you. I'll see you next time.
All right, thanks.